All right, good morning. I was asked to give a talk today about resiliency. And I think that's a very interesting topic for us as Zen students. Because as we've talked about the last couple times, how do you be resilient when there is no you? What does it mean to be resilient if the concept of you is just that, a concept? Who is it that needs to be resilient? Who is it that needs to bend and not break? It's you, but who you are is made up of many non-you components and is always changing. So what does it mean to be resilient in light of all that? There's a koan, show me an immovable tree in a heavy wind. And I'm not going to give the answer because some of you have passed this koan and some of you haven't encountered it yet. But I will give you a hint, which is sometimes moving makes you immovable. Right? Sometimes the best way to have a strong boundary is to be flexible. Sometimes the best way to get out of a bad situation is to stay in it a little longer. Now, if you're in danger, obviously you need to just get out of that situation. But a good example is that yesterday I have a client who was in some distress and was asking for some extra time. Well, usually I leave my 8 a.m. slot open and I start seeing people at 9 so I can do admin or fit in someone if they need it. But yesterday I had an appointment, a dentist appointment. So I saw him at 6:30. What a mensch, what a great guy, seeing him at 6:30. But what am I giving up by doing that? What do you guys suppose I would normally be doing at 6:30?
Sleep.
Not sleeping. I'm an early bird. What's that? Yes, I might be working out. How can you tell? Or I might be spending time with my significant other. Yep. She's aight. I like spending time with her. What have I done an awful lot of in the last 30 years to be sitting up here in front of all of you? Meditate. Right? All of which falls under the category of self-care. Self-care allows you to be more what? Resilient. Exactly. So I can say, no, I will not meet with you because I need to do my self-care. But also part of being resilient is showing up for your life and showing up for the people that need you and showing up for your work, right? So I met with him. And boy, I did a good job and I got him all tuned up and dialed and he went off to do his day and I felt so good about myself. And then he circled back later. Hey, I know we're supposed to meet tomorrow and we already met today, but can we meet again today? It's really important. Well, I did that too. But here's the problem, is that if you're trying to be resilient and you completely exhaust yourself, are you now still being resilient? Like you gotta push yourself some, but not to the point that you break, right? So I said to this client, I said, listen, the way that I work with people is really not on an emergent basis. Like people kind of have to have their basic stuff sorted out and then I'm trying to enhance. And I said, you know, days like today make me feel like maybe you don't need coaching, maybe you need therapy, you know, or like maybe you don't need coaching, maybe you need to like go somewhere and like get sorted out for a second, right? Interestingly enough, as my resiliency was being challenged by extending my day, both at the beginning and the end, I was also trying to help him develop more resiliency to get through the day without needing to talk to his coach. But here's the really important question. Did I do the right thing having the early morning meeting with him? You think so? Did I do the right thing having the evening meeting with him? Arguably. I'm curious to get your opinions. Because aren't these the kind of questions that you have to ask yourself all the time? Should I get up early and do the thing? Should I stay late and do the thing? Is it worth the effort? What am I giving up? Because I can't not meditate and work out every day. I'll become a basket case. Do you guys want to know the answer to the question of whether I did the right thing or not? The answer is I don't know. I have no fucking idea. I don't know. I don't know what the negative consequences would have been had I passed on either of these meetings for him or for me, since I get paid to work with him. I also don't know what the consequences were or are. I'm here, I'm upright, I'm pretty cogent. I have a colleague sitting in the other room who's not feeling well today. If I felt like that person feels today, I'd probably be like, dang it, I worked too hard yesterday, I shouldn't have done that. But I feel good, so I don't know. Maybe there's no negative consequences. The key to resiliency is to be asking yourself the question all the time. Am I doing the right thing? Because what's the opposite of resiliency?
Weakness.
That's right. That's the word I would have chosen, weakness. And you also need to ask yourself that question, am I being weak right now? Because one of the most cliched phrases in the whole therapy world and spiritual world and self-help world is one that's already come up today. It's the thing I sacrificed yesterday morning. It's self what?
Care.
Self-care. Which again, studying the Dharma for 30 years, what has come up over and over and over and over? It's one of the 3 marks of existence. No self. What does self-care mean when there is no self? When I was getting ready to ordain as a Zen monk, my teacher said to me, the difference between someone who's a monk and someone who's not a monk is someone who's not a monk can say no. When you're a monk, you're giving your whole life to the world. And the only time you can say no, if someone needs you, is when you need to rest so you can say yes in the future. That's why I said no to the same client who wanted to meet this morning before I came in here. Because I'm booked from right now until 6 tonight doing attuned output things, and I knew that I didn't have it. Was that weak? Not a rhetorical question. Was it weak to say no this time?
No.
I don't think. I think it was actually resilient to say yes yesterday and to say no today. But I don't know. I don't know. How many times, raise your hand if you've ever seen someone do behavior that was arguably weak in the name of self-care. I just really need to take care of myself, so I'm gonna not go to work today. Well, what's the problem with that? You're letting down all your teammates, you're letting down your boss, you're letting down your customers, right? But what if someone close to you has just passed away? Or what if you're really having a lot of trauma come up? Or what if maybe if in the name of resiliency you go to work and then you freak out on someone and get fired, see, that wasn't resilient, right? But the fact of the matter is that we don't know anything. We have to do our best to feel our way through this life we're in. My dad always watches these talks, so at some point he's going to see this. Hello, Dad. My dad and I are in a little conflict right now. And I've had a question, a koan in my mind the last few days. What to do? Do I not say anything about something he was doing that was bothering me? Do I express my strong concern? What's the most resilient thing to do? I want to be honest with him. I want us to have an honest, close relationship, but I also don't want us to fight. Coming up on the 3rd anniversary of my mom's death, and I actually had a thought going in my head of like, well, my teacher just died, and I'm really stressed at work, and it's coming up on the 3rd anniversary of mom's death. How can he be treating me this way? And I was like, well, dude, his wife died 3 years ago too. Like, what about that? Some compassion for the man, right? My third option, the middle path that we try to follow as Zen students, was to simply state to him what I was thinking and feeling with no energy. No like, how could you blah, 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 but just, well, when you propose this, I feel like this, and I don't know what the solution is. I literally said, I don't know what the solution is. I don't think he would mind me sharing this. It's a real world example. When I say I don't know, that creates tremendous resiliency in the relationship because it allows him to have space to respond. As soon as you think you know something, Stacy, you did this, and the reason why was this. And you knew that it would make me feel this, so bad on you. We're not friends. As opposed to, hey, like this happened, and here's how it affected me. And I don't really know what to do. You see how that creates a conversation? Doesn't put her on her heels. Now we can have a discussion. That creates resiliency in our relationship. By the way, anyone want to make a wild guess how long I've known this amazing woman? Just throw out a number.
20 years?
Just about. Yeah, when we first moved here about 19 years ago, we worked together somewhere else. And then we worked together here. We still work together here. Over 10 years. So it's a very resilient relationship. Like, I've got a lot of rope with her. Like, I could be a real ass to her, like a lot, and she'd still be my friend. I mean, we all have our breaking point. But I can't do that with you, whom I just met. Because you'll just be like, I don't want to deal with that guy, right? So resiliency builds as we spend more time together, as you work on your body in the gym or in the yoga studio, your body becomes more resilient. As you sit on the cushion more, your mind becomes more resilient. Important caveat, if you have a good therapist, luckily here there's only good therapists. The best one is sitting in this room, but everyone's looking around, who is it? She's got a good mentor, you know. What can I say? She was trained well. If you have a good therapist and you spend time in therapy, like the more time you spend, I've been seeing my therapist for about as long as I've known Stacy, since just when I moved here. You develop resiliency in your ability to deal with life because you kind of know what triggers you. You kind of know what are proportionate responses, what are disproportionate. I mean, the problem is that when you're triggered, you're going to either overreact or underreact. You're either going to fight or freeze most of the time. You might fawn, but most of the time you're going to flee or you're going to freeze or you're going to fight, get away, antagonize. Fawning, by the way, is when you're triggered and you just try to get the person to love you by doing whatever compromising behavior you need to do. But when you're really processed, you've done enough time on the cushion, you've done enough time in therapy, whatever, you can have choice when you're triggered. You can go, well, I kind of want to run away. I kind of want to flame this person. I kind of want to kiss up to them so it'll be nice to me. I kind of want to just do nothing. But I choose to do this. I choose to lean in. I choose to be vulnerable if it's appropriate. I choose to set a boundary. I choose to whatever. I have a friend who's also a client. It's not Ryan, although he's also a friend who's a client. But he's been wanting to just focus on the work relationship because he's having some issues with his wife, and he wants to he's trying to divert a lot of his friend energy toward his wife. He's got a lot of close friends, and that's fine, and I respect that. But in the context of our work, he's been kind of leaning on me with some personal stuff. And I just gently set a boundary with him today. I said, listen, I respect that you're trying to work on your marriage and you're not wanting me to share personal stuff with you right now. You're not wanting that aspect. You're wanting me to just help you with your companies, and that's fine. But if I'm not going to be sharing personal stuff with you for a bit, I don't want you doing it either. Let's just focus on the work stuff. I think that creates resilience in our relationship because that keeps me from getting resentful of you're dictating these terms to me, but then you're not following them. Resiliency is not just sucking it up. Sometimes resiliency is saying no. Sometimes resiliency is saying yes. Sometimes resiliency, like yesterday, is saying, well, I'm willing to do this just for today because this is what this person needs, or this is what's best for my company, or this is what's best for me. But also to make clear to the person, I can't do this on an ongoing basis. I can't do this in the future. You might say to your boss at the ice cream shop, hey, really need you here. It's holiday weekend, blah, blah, blah. And you have all this self-care plan and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get time and a half. I'm gonna help my boss out. Okay. But I need to tell her I can't do it in the future as a general rule because I need that time for me. There's all kinds of ways you can create resiliency, but the main thing that I'm trying to drive home is there's no formula. There is no one size fits all. There is no, I just always do it this way. That is the self at its worst. And this is probably a topic for another time, but I have a real issue with, when I said earlier about if you have a good therapist, I wasn't kidding. Therapists, in my opinion, that don't do a good job are the ones that make you more rigid. Well, you just have to have boundaries around that. You just have, and you become one of those people whose boundaries are so good that nobody wants to be around them ever. Well done. Your boundaries are so good that you're now living in a castle up on a hill with a huge moat around it and nobody can get in. Well, that's no good either. It's all about the middle way. It's all about balance. Resiliency, that infers being able to bounce back, being able to continue forward, being able to work through things. I mentioned earlier a couple little issues I'm having with various people. Ryan and I were in a thing a couple months ago, which if it were not for the context of this conversation, I wouldn't bring up. Because it's over and done with. It's not an issue. But there's a lot of resiliency because we've known each other for a very long time and pretty close for about, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
And so there's room there. You can break yourself or any relationship if you push it too hard. In the same way, any relationship will atrophy if you don't put in any effort. The Buddha actually talked about this with regards to your meditation practice. He said it should be like a guitar string. And those of us that are musicians in the room know this very well. If the guitar strings are too loose, it just goes blip, blip, blip. It doesn't make any sound. But if you tighten your guitar string too much, and those of you that play guitar have surely had this happen. I actually wear goggles when I change my guitar strings. Because I've had guitar strings pop and go like this and almost lacerate my eye, but not quite. Especially those pesky high E strings. They're just like a ticking time bomb. And so if it's too tight, it will pop. You're the same way. If you're too loose, and you're just kind of, my life sucks. It's like, well, yeah, stop sucking. And then your life won't suck. But then also, we all know people who are like, well, I gotta do this, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do this. And they get in a car accident because they're talking on the phone while they're typing an email, while they're thinking about a thing, while the music's on. And it's like, that's the guitar string that pops. Neither of those things are resilient. Resiliency is the middle way, and it's constantly asking yourself, am I being resilient or am I being weak? Sometimes staying in bed all day is being resilient, if you need that to reset. Sometimes it's being weak. Sometimes overriding and pushing through and doing something you don't really want to do is being resilient. It really needs to get done. If you want to know more about that, ask Ryan about his job. Having done his job, there's a lot of overriding involved. Doesn't matter whether I want to do this or not right now. The group needs me to do it. That's true of your job, by the way, your job. But it's especially true, whoever sits in that chair, pity them. It's not easy. Sometimes you just have to override, but then other times you can really hurt yourself. Like I have a general rule of thumb, which is that if I am angry with you, I will not talk to you. That's not stonewalling, that's because I have a tendency to overreact. So I want to sit with my feelings and chill out before I engage. That creates resiliency in my relationships because I'm not flaming people all the time. You ever seen me mad?
Oh yeah.
You ever seen me mad? I don't know if you have or not. Well, now I'm mad that you've never seen me mad. But I think unusual, and this is just a commercial for the practice, not for me, but unusual for me to just lose my temper and just fry somebody, right? I mean, that's unusual. So, you go to the cushion, you sit with it. Why am I mad? Why am I triggered? Is my response proportionate? And again, going back to the tendency is to either overreact or underreact when we're triggered. We underreact if we're afraid that the other person will hurt us if we express our displeasure. We overreact because we're triggered and we're not responding to what they're doing. We're responding to some old ancient hurt. But the best way to make yourself, your relationships, your life more resilient is just to try to find that middle way. Try to understand other people's perspectives. Try to understand what's going on with you. And just keep asking yourself the question. Like, if you are in a headspace of like, I'm so resilient, you're probably missing something. If you're in the headspace of like, am I being resilient? I think so. Probably you are. Because it shows some pliability of the self. And again, that unmovable tree in the heavy wind, like, we often see mighty oaks fallen down by the side. Willows, not so much. Willows go like that, right? So just be careful about getting too rigid. Any questions about this? No questions? Any comments? Well, I know that you have an announcement, so I tried to be tidy. Did the person who requested this topic feel that their needs were addressed? Good. That's my goal. All right, everyone. Well, I really appreciate your time and attention. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you all for watching.